There are so many poison types in the Kanto region that it's actually the second most common type. Now, I know they don't seem impressive at first glance, but a lot of them are way more powerful than you might think. Our last two hardcore monotype Nuzlocke challenges really didn't live up to their name, so I'm the Redbeard guy, and this is a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Fire Red using only poison types. Let's get right on into it. We name our starter Bulbasaur Blueberry, and Blue, of course, challenges us to a battle. But Blueberry is going to show all of you and that overrated lizard who the best Gen 1 starter really is. After tackling each other over and over again like we're back in freshman football, Blueberry wins the battle. After running some errands, Professor Oak gives us some Pokeballs and a Pokedex, so the run has officially begun. We head straight to Viridian Forest, where we immediately find our first encounter, a Weedle named Clementine. The one upside of early route bugs is they evolve extremely early on. So without wasting any more time, we find ourselves in Pewter City, ready to take on Brock, the Rock-type gym leader. We lead off with Blueberry, who may only know Vine Whip, but that's all it takes to one-shot the Geodude and the Onix, defeating Brock and winning us our first gym badge. Over on Route 3, we run into our next encounter of male Nidoran, who we catch and name Pomegranate. Almost instantly, after stepping into Mount Moon, we run into, surprise surprise, a Zubat, which, decades-old trauma aside, is actually an incredible Pokemon. We catch it, and we name it Grape. Blueberry evolves into an Ivysaur, and Pomegranate evolves into a Nidorino. We could technically evolve him into a Nidoking with the Moonstone that we find in Mount Moon, but that would give him the Ground type, which is weak to Misty's Water types. Next up, on Route 4, we run into an Ekans, who does have Intimidate, which brings Ekans from being useless to moderately okay in certain situations. Coincidentally, just like this one, it's time to take on Blue once again. He leads off with his Pidgeotto, and we intimidate him with our Eggplant, who wraps and gets the poison off on the first try, and even flinches with a bite. Maybe Eggplant is putting in the effort to prove me wrong about Ekans. He brings down the Pidgeotto, Blue sends out Abra, and I use this opportunity to get a free switch into Pomegranate, who just pecks it twice and takes it down. Rattata comes in next, and it gets demolished by a super effective double kick. In comes his Charmander, which should be a Charmeleon at this point, but I think Pomegranate can handle it. He's doing pretty well so far, double kicking and embering back and forth. Oh, that was a close one, and we definitely would have been dead to a crit. We're gonna have to be more careful in the future. Across Nugget Bridge, we run into an Oddish on Route 24, who we named Tomato. After grinding everybody up to the level cap and evolving our new Tomato into a Gloom, it's time to take on Misty, the Water-type gym leader. He leads off a Staryu, and we send in Blueberry, who once again has a great type advantage, but Misty's Starmie is not to be underestimated. The Staryu falls after a few Vine Whips, and in comes the aforementioned Starmie. After taking a Swift, we luckily land a Sleep Powder and start chipping away with Vine Whip. Even more luckily, we land a crit hit and knock out the Starmie, defeating Misty, earning our second gym badge, and continuing to make our case on Bulbasaur being the best Kanto starter. On the way to Vermilion City, we actually have 3 evolutions. Eggplant evolves into Arbok, Grape evolves into Golbat, and Pomegranate evolves into a Nidoking. The team is definitely starting to look good. Just in time for our rival to challenge us to a battle. He leads off with his Pidgeotto, and we send in our even bigger Eggplant to get off and intimidate. Now, I gotta be honest, I'm actually really surprised with how strong Eggplant has become, but, my expectations weren't very high to begin with, so I switch out into Grape, who tanks 2 quick attacks and knocks the Pidgeotto out with a crit. Then, he sends in his Kadabra. Now, I know that Bite is super effective, but we're actually going to hit it with Wing Attack since it's physical and stab. Thankfully, we outspeed and knock out the Kadabra. Out comes Raticate, so we switch into Pomegranate, who takes a critical hit but then responds with a one-hit KO Brick Break. Finally, comes out Charmeleon. We use Dig and just barely miss out on the one-shot and take an Ember. But a quick Horn Attack knocks out the Charmeleon and wins us the battle. I don't want to talk about what we have to do to get the Cut HM, but we depart the SSN and it's time to take on our 3rd gym. I think this might actually be the world record on solving this gym puzzle, which infuriates everybody, but on to the battle. The Electric-type gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. He leads off with a Voltorb, and we send in Pomegranate, who is immune to electric types, so Voltorb hits him with a Sonic Boom before falling to a dig. Pikachu comes in after that, and poisons himself, and then meets the same fate as Voltorb. In comes his ace Raichu, who immediately starts double teaming, which is honestly worst case scenario for us here, but it doesn't end up mattering, and Pomegranate lands a dig, knocking out the Raichu and earning our 3rd gym badge. On our way through Dark Cave, my stubborn Gen 1er self decided not to get Flash because I was confident in my abilities to remember how to make it through. I was wrong, so it took me quite a while, but we did make it through. I head into Pokemon Tower to take on our rival a little bit early because, he's just been so easy, and if we battled him after the next gym, it would be even easier. So, we lead off with our respective Pidgeotto and Arbok once again, but this time at equal levels. It can't do much to Eggplant with Gusts, so he takes out the Pidgeotto in 2 turns. Up next is Execute, and I overestimate Eggplant's strength here and take way too much damage from a Confusion, which every member of our team is weak to. So, I switched to the surprisingly bulky Grape to tank the Confusion and knock it out with a Wing Attack. Kadabra is out next and once again falls to a single Wing Attack. He sends in Gyarados and intimidates Grape, so we switch into Pomegranate, who takes a surprisingly weak Thrash, but he outspeeds the Gyarados, and we land Thrashes and Horn Attacks back and forth until Gyarados falls with the help of Poison Point damage. Pomegranate is weak, but we really don't have a good switch in here, so we just hope we outspeed, which we do. So we dodge the Smokescreen underground and knock out the Charmeleon with a dig and defeat our rival. In Celadon City, we evolve Tomato into a Vileplume, and it's time to take on our next gym, the Grass-type gym leader Erica, which we once again have a great matchup against as we resist all of her attacking moves other than Constrict. She leads off with Victory Bell, and it's finally Clementine's time to shine as he hits hard with an Aerial Ace, but sadly gets paralyzed by Stun Spore. Twin Needle doesn't do as much damage as I hoped it would, but this Victory Bell really can't touch us, so after another paralyzed turn, Victory Bell falls to another Aerial Ace. I don't want to get trapped in paralyzed Constrict cheese, so we send in Grape, who doesn't quite get the one-shot with Wing Attack, but still takes out the Tangela very easily. We start off with a Confuse Ray, which Erica then uses a full heal on, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but it didn't end up mattering because Grape crit hit on his next Wing Attack and knocked out the Vileplume, earning us our 4th gym badge, and we get Giga Drain, which is an amazing TM for our team. The level cap jumps up to a whopping 43 here, but it also opens up a lot of Kanto, including 2 rocket hideouts, 2 gyms, and a crazy amount of trainers, so we do have to be careful about our levels for a while. We're heading down into the first rocket hideout in the game corner, and after tackling some spinny puzzles and about a million rocket grunts, Grape finally likes us enough to evolve into a Crobat, just in time to face the leader of Team Rocket, Giovanni. We send in Blueberry, and I forgot to heal the PP on Giga Drain. So after knocking out the Onix, Rhyhorn comes in and we have to get creative. Blueberry lands a Sleep Powder, giving us a safe switch into Tomato, who is still rocking with Absorb, but she does get the job done, and out next is Kangaskhan. So after taking a Fake Out and a Bite, Tomato poisons the Kangaskhan, and with poison damage and Absorb recovery, I think Tomato could have gotten the victory, but I played it safe and switched into Pomegranate. And then I misclick Horn Attack, but it doesn't really matter and Giovanni goes down. We grab the Sylph Scope and then head back to the Pokemon Tower, where we find our next and arguably best encounter, Ghastly. So we catch her and we name her Kiwi. At the top of the Pokemon Tower, we take down a gauntlet of grunts and rescue Mr. Fuji, who in return gives us the Pokeflute, which effectively opens up the entire southern half of Kanto. On the way to Fuchsia City, our starter Blueberry finally evolves into the objectively best Gen 1 starter, Venusaur. We also catch a Venonat named Plum, and our new Kiwi evolves into a Haunter. Alright, so this part is a little weird. We were looking for a Nidoran female in the Safari Zone, but ended up running into a male. Now, we could just re-encounter due to the dupe's claws, or we could just catch it and trade it to this girl in the underground path, which, however you want to look at it, we were going to end up with a Nidoqueen one way or another. which we don't actually end up using, but we do evolve her into a Nidorina and then into a Nidoqueen. Up in Sylph Tower, our little Kiwi evolves into a Gengar, and it's time to take on our rival once again. We underleveled for this fight because we still have 2 badges to take down under this level cap, so he leads off with his newly evolved Pidgeot, who we meet with the familiar face of Eggplant, who can't quite get the 2-shot with Rock Slide, but still takes down the Pidgeot. In comes Execute, which we just trade Paralysis, so I switch into Kiwi. Kiwi takes a strong confusion here before landing a Shadow Punch and scrambling the eggs. Or are they seeds? Anyway, Alakazam comes in, who falls in 1 Shadow Punch. Gyarados is next, and this is really dangerous, but we start with confusing it and then hitting it with Psychic, which gets a clutch special defense drop, and that is just enough to let the next Psychic knock out the Gyarados. That was way too close for comfort, but no rest for the wicked, his starter Charizard comes out next. We really don't have a good answer here, so I decided to go with Pomegranate, who tanks a wing attack fairly well, and then doesn't do much at all with Shockwave. And my god, that was close to our first loss. So I switched to Grape, who also takes a huge amount of damage from Flamethrower, but does outspeed, so we have to risk the 90% accurate fly, which we do land and take out the Charizard, just barely skating by and defeating our rival, and the Deathless run is still going strong. Now Giovanni wants to battle us again, so we lead off with Kiwi, who wipes the floor with Nidorino, and then we switch to Blueberry to take on Rhyhorn, which falls to the quad effective Giga Drain. Kangaskhan comes in next, so we set up a Leech Seed, and then luckily get a Paralysis with a Secret Power. So then I send in Kiwi and add Insult to Injury, confusing the Kangaskhan and setting up a triple status effect, which was pointless but hilarious, and we knock out the Kangaskhan with a Psychic. Nidoqueen comes out last, and Kiwi makes short work of her with 2 Psychics, defeating Giovanni once again. We've made it down to Fuchsia City, but our team is still 4 to 6 levels below the level cap, but it is time to take on our 5th gym, our Poison type counterpart, Koga. If you ask me, our Poison team is far superior to his, but let's find out. We lead off with Kiwi, who one-shots his Coughing, his Muck, his other Coughing, and his Wheezing. I rest my case. Thanks for the gym badge, buddy. But now it's time to take on what could possibly be the hardest battle of the entire run for us. The Psychic-type gym leader, Sabrina. Her Alakazam is a notorious run killer for normal teams, let alone mono-poison ones. She leads off with her Kadabra, and Clementine makes short work of it. Next comes in Mr. Mime, who also falls to the power of Clementine. Now in comes Alakazam. If it goes for a Psychic, we basically lose the run here. But it goes for a Future Sight, so Clementine brings it down. Our Beedrill is ready to complete the sweep with just 2 more attacks. I'm telling you, do not sleep on Beedrill. And with that, Clementine just swept our biggest challenge of this run by far. And now it's time for us to get our last 2 encounters. First is Tentacool on Route 13, which we catch a named Watermelon. And in the Pokemon Mansion, we run into our final encounter, a Grimer. So we just chuck our Master Ball at her and call her Papaya. If you know, you know. While we were grinding our team up to the level cap, Watermelon evolves into one of my favorite water types, a Tentacool. Shout out to Terry. And now it's time to take on our 7th gym, the Fire type gym leader, Blaine, who is famously a pushover if you have a strong Surf user. But of course, I forgot to heal after grinding, and Tentacruel only has 2 Surfs. I'm sure that won't have instant consequences, right? So she uses her first on Growlithe, and in comes Ponyta. So we switch to Pomegranate, who poisons the Ponyta on contact, and then one-shots it with a Dig. And then there's Rapidash, who also falls to 1 Dig. And now time for his ace, Arcanine. Pomegranate hits hard with a Dig, but then takes way too much damage from a Fire Blast. Thankfully, Pomegranate is faster, so he can dig 1 more time and knock out the Arcanine. Somehow, this doesn't kill. Maybe a high roll before and a low roll now. I don't know, but if Arcanine lands another Flamethrower, there's no way Pomegranate can survive. And he misses. Pomegranate survives, and Blaine heals his Arcanine. We chip with Shockwave, but we really should have used that opportunity to get a free switch in. But it doesn't end up mattering because Watermelon dodges the Fire Blast and uses her last surf to knock out my favorite Pokemon of all time and earns us the sketchiest badge that we've ever won. But we win it. One more gym to go, and let's cut right to the chase. It's time to take on the Ground-type gym leader, Giovanni. We lead with Watermelon, and this time we didn't forget to heal our Surf PP, so Watermelon systematically drowns every single one of Giovanni's ground types in a single surf. This run is just the story of how poison types are actually amazing and deserve more love. But with that, we earn our 8th and final gym badge. On our way to Victory Road, our rival challenges us to another battle, but, spoiler alert, we end up battling him again very soon. So we're just gonna speed through this one. Kiwi basically just sweeps it anyway, so we have made it to the Pokemon League, so far deathless. And this will be the team that we are bringing to challenge the Elite Four. Kiwi the Gengar, Clementine the Beedrill, Pomegranate the Nidoking, Grape the Crobat, Blueberry the Venusaur, and Watermelon the Tentacruel. The level cap is set at 60, which is the 4th Elite Four member's strongest level Pokemon, so we're a little over leveled into our first challenge, Lorelei, the Ice-type specialist. We lead off with Kiwi, and she leads off with her Dugong, who just barely misses out on the one-shot with Thunderbolt. So after setting up Hail and she heals, we chip with Shadow Ball and then knock it out with one more Thunderbolt, and next is Slowbro, which does look scary, but actually doesn't even have Psychic, so we just knock it out with a Thunderbolt. In comes Lapras, who is thick enough to survive one Thunderbolt, but then confuses Kiwi. Our faithful Kiwi does break through confusion and knock out Lapras. Next is Cloyster, and Kiwi does hit herself in confusion, which allows spikes to be set up, but it doesn't end up mattering and we knock it out with Thunderbolt. And then in comes Jinx, who once again doesn't even have a Psychic move. So it goes down to one Shadow Ball, defeating Lorelei. Up next is the Fighting type specialist Bruno, who still after 20 years I don't understand why he has 2 Onixes on his team. But anyway, we lead off with Watermelon, and first we set up a barrier to boost our defenses, and then we take out the Onix with a Surf, after a Rock Tomb doesn't really do anything. The second Onix falls even faster than the first, and then in comes Hitmonchan, who would be a lot scarier if he had the elemental punches like he does in Heart Gold Soul Silver, but he doesn't, so he goes down to a few surfs after lowering our speed once again, and then out next is Hitmonlee, who doesn't really stand a chance and goes down to 2 surfs. Now he sends in his ace, Machamp, which actually does manage to survive 2 surfs on a Sliver somehow, so we switch to Kiwi on the heal. Sorry Watermelon, no sweep this time, and Machamp also managed to survive a Psychic from Gengar. I honestly don't get it, but after healing once again, Machamp goes down to 2 more attacks. Bruno was as underwhelming as always, save for a surprisingly bulky Machamp at the end. Bruno goes down and it's time to take on our next Elite Four member, Agatha, the Ghost-type specialist. Although she does seem to be as poison heavy as we are, and after seeing that she has 2 Gengars, Kiwi takes this personally and tells us that she's gonna handle it on her own. And boy does she. She knocks out every single one of Agatha's Pokemon with a single Psychic. Good girl, Kiwi. So after proving who the real Poison type master is, it is on to the 4th and final Elite Four member, the Dragon Master Lance, who will definitely put up more of a fight than his predecessor. He leads off with his not dragon Gyarados, and we send in Pomegranate on accident because we didn't set our lineup while preparing. So, we hard switch into Kiwi, who takes a Dragon Rage, and then destroys the Gyarados with a Thunderbolt. Up next is the Not Dragon Aerodactyl, who just barely survives a Thunderbolt, lowers our speed, gets healed up, just to go down to one more Thunderbolt. Dragonite comes in, so we switch to Pomegranate safely on a Safeguard, and then nail the Dragonite with a quad-effective Ice Beam, which it survives. But thankfully, the Citrus Berry takes it out of healing range and it falls to one more Ice Beam. And next is Dragonair, who also survives an Ice Beam, but hits us with a Dragon Rage. So after healing and taking 2 more Ice Beams, the Dragonair goes down. His final Dragonair comes out, and also falls to 2 Ice Beams, defeating Lance pretty easily and only leaving one final challenge. The champion of the Pokemon League and our rival Blue. His team has gotten a lot stronger and he has a few very serious threats, especially if we want to come out of this deathless. But it is finally time. He leads off with his trusty Pidgeot and we send in Kiwi. One strong Thunderbolt is all it takes and Pidgeot goes down. Next is Alakazam, which is very scary, but Gengar outspeeds, and Shadow Ball is physical in this gen, so the frail Alakazam falls. Next is Gyarados, who also goes down in one hit to a quad effective Thunderbolt. Next is Exeggutor, who eats a Shadow Ball very well and lands a Sleep Powder, putting Kiwi to sleep. But it really doesn't have anything it can touch us with, so we just wait it out. But sadly, it does get a light screen up before Kiwi wakes up to land the Confuse Ray. Shadow Ball does get the job done, and Kiwi gets put back to sleep. So we switch into the Saffron City hero, Clementine. Blue full restores Exeggutor on the switch, and Clementine takes down about 3/4 of his health with a Twin Needle. Egg Bomb does a lot of damage, but not enough, and the Exeggutor goes down. And here comes Rhydon, so we switch out into Watermelon, and Rhydon misses a takedown and falls to a quad effective critical hit Surf. And this is it, the final Pokemon standing between us and our dreams, Charizard. I think the 4 levels really make a difference here as Charizard survives a Surf and hits Watermelon with an Aerial Ace. But thankfully the Citrus Berry takes Charizard out of healing range and one more Surf takes it down, defeating Blue, and that is how I completed a deathless run of a Poison type only hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Fire Red. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it helps me out a lot. And it would make me happy if you commented, but that part I don't care as much about. Either way, thank you for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good day.